Mr. Clerk, we call this meeting to order.
On activation of the emergency alarm signal, all persons should immediately exit the building. Please use the exits to the left or right front of the council chamber or the east or west stairwell outside the rear doors of the chamber. Do not use elevators or escalators. After exiting the building, security will direct everyone down 9th Street to the assembly area located inside the former safety building parking lot. Able persons should assist visually and hearing impaired visitors with exiting the building. Individuals wishing to speak during public hearings in the public comment period are generally allowed 3 minutes to speak. Persons appearing before the committee are not allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, use language of a personal nature which insults or demeans any person, including comments directed at public officials or staff members that are not related to their official duties, or address or question staff members directly. All questions are to be directed to the committee chair. Failure to adhere to the guidelines may result in speakers forfeiting any remaining time and further disciplinary action as necessary, which could include barring from attendance at future committee meetings for a period of 6 months. And Madam Chair, all members of the committee are in attendance this afternoon, and you do have quorum.
Thank you. Can we do the public comment period?
Public comment is now open. Is there anyone present who wishes to address this committee regarding any items that are not on today's agenda? Please come forward. Madam Chair, no one signed up to speak virtually before the 10 a.m. deadline, and seeing no one present in the chamber wishing to speak, the public comment period is now closed. Back to the committee.
Thank you. Can we do approval of the minutes and then board vacancies?
The minutes to be approved are from the Tuesday, September 16th, 2025 Land Use, Housing, and Transportation Standing Committee meeting held at 3 p.m. If there are no corrections or amendments, then the minutes will be approved as presented. Those minutes have been approved.
Good afternoon, Chair Jones, Ms. Robertson, Mr. Breton, Pamela Nichols, Council Management Analyst. The vacancy report before you for consideration captures current and projected vacancies through February 2026. And going right into it, for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Supervisory Board, we have a reappointment application from Kobe K for a person licensed by the Virginia Real Estate Board as a real estate salesperson or real estate broker. Moving down to the Board of Building Code Appeals, we have a reappointment application from Charles Field for an individual experience in residential or commercial property management. And then for the Commission of Architectural Review, there's one vacancy. We received an application from Nicholas Peck and Jordan Waddle. We did receive recommendation and support from the planning staff for Nicholas Peck. For the Community Transportation Advisory Committee, one vacancy for individual that resides or have a primary place of employment in the city. We received a reappointment application from Andrew Bond, and for an alternate member, Sarah Erkison. And then moving down to the plan RVA for a citizen representative, there is one vacancy. We did receive two applications, one from Priscilla Edding and Grant Saul. But again, there is only one vacancy and two applications. And then lastly, for the Safe and Healthy Streets Commission, there are two vacancies, and we received the reappointment applications from both members, Louise Gordon, as well as Kirk Milliken.
For the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, I'd like to continue that appointment for right now.
Okay.
And put it on the next schedule.
January. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pamela. We're going to go with the affordable housing one we want to put in the next round.
Yes.
We support all of the recommendations for the additional boards with the exception of Plan RBA. We'll go with Priscilla Eddings.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. And just for clarification, Nicholas Peck for the Commission of Architecture Review, correct?
Correct.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
And then the 2 reappointments for Safe and Healthy Streets.
Thank you.
Yep.
I move that we accept the recommendations that we just went over.
Committee is now voting on the board appointments and reappointments as presented. Mr. Breton,
Aye.
Vice Chair Robertson, Chair Jones,
Aye.
that motion has been approved.
Thank you.
All right. Papers.
Madam Chair, the first paper before the committee is ordinance 2025-239 to authorize the CAO to execute a lease agreement between the city as landlord and Richmond Community Tool Bank as tenant for the purpose of storing tools and equipment at Broad Rock Sports Complex located at 4385 Old Warwick Road. That paper is before the committee.
Do we have anybody that wants to speak to this paper? And before you do, Mr. Fergie, for clarification, on here it says 8th district. That is the 9th, right?
It is ninth.
Yeah,
district.
so we just need to correct that. It's the 9th district.
It's right on the line, that area, but it is technically that spot is. Good afternoon, Council. Chris Frelke, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Facilities. We have been working with Tool Bank. I think a lot of you know they're a great partner for us. They provide tools at a very low cost for our groups within our city. Right now, their location is on the north side of the city, and it's hard for our south side residents to be able to get access to it and come to their location. So we're working at trying to put a temporary we're looking to lease them some space to put storage utility space to store their stuff at Broad Rock. Does that help? There you go. So we have been working with Tool Bank for probably about 6 months to try to find a location that would be ideal for our Southside residents so that they could have access to these tools. And so we came to the location, and we also got support from the 9th district to house it there. And we're excited about the opportunity that our residents will not have to go further to get these type of valuable resources to make improvements in their community spaces.
Center.
Oh,
Good afternoon. I have to look at the clock to figure out what time it is. So you said there is one on north side. Are you discontinuing that or you adding?
No, that's their
You're adding?
that's their head location. So this is just going to be a place where people can pick up. It's going to be a storage shed that we can lock and secure. That we can have tools there so they can drop it off. And then when we know groups need to come on the weekends or some other stuff, it can be there instead of going all the way to their central location and where their office is on the north side.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Clerk, we'll do a public hearing on the paper.
Is there anyone in the chamber who wishes to speak in opposition to this paper? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of this paper? Madam Chair, seeing no one present wishing to speak to this item, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Committee is now voting on the motion to forward ordinance 2025-239 to council with the recommendation to approve. Mr. Breton,
Aye.
Vice Chair Robertson,
Aye.
Chair Jones,
Aye.
that motion has been approved.
Paper number 2.
The next paper before the committee is Resolution 2025-R044 to reverse in part the decision of the Commission of Architectural Review partially denying an application for a retroactive certificate of appropriateness for 510 West 20th Street regarding front porch roofs by fully supporting such application. That paper is before the committee.
I see this paper is led by Ms. Lynch. Is she online or anywhere to speak to this? Oh, Audrey. Yeah, we just on your paper, so we wanted you to speak to it.
Like a genie. Call my name 3 times and I'll come. Thank you, council colleagues and Chairwoman Jones for giving the courtesy of a little intro into this paper. Essentially, we are putting this forward to support a family who had unknowingly fell out of compliance with the current car historic district specs. And so this happened, during a time when they were, I think a new baby was welcomed in their household. And so they were not directly managing the contract. And so this roof that was put on their home was unfortunately fell outside of the car guidelines. And so what they're essentially asking for is a waiver so they don't have to expend, $40,000 to $50,000 to redo their roof. And I don't know if the family wants to come forward and make any comments.
Do I just, okay, there we are.
Oh, wait.
Thank you
wait,
for that.
I'm sorry. Second, Mr. Clerk, can we open it up for public comment?
If there's anyone in the chamber who wishes to speak in opposition to this paper, could you please come forward first? And anyone who would like to speak in support of this paper, please come line up behind the podium. Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Alex Dandridge. I'm preservation planner with the Authenticity Studio and also secretary to the Commission of Architectural Review. I wanted to address this today to provide some background to this particular case and also give some clarification into the commission's decision. So 510 West 20th Street is located within the Spring Hill City Old and Historic District. This certificate of appropriateness application was a result of a violation, as mentioned, without properly obtaining the proper building permits or a certificate of appropriateness prior to work being completed. In March 2025, 3 violations were reported on West 20th Street for the replacement of historic standing seam metal roofs, specifically at 518 West 20th Street, 602 West 20th Street, and the subject property 510 West 20th Street. Subsequently, a stop work order was issued to all properties requiring that the proper building permits and historic reviews were obtained prior to the work being completed. At the time the stop work orders were issued, the work at 518 West 20th and 602 West 20th Street were underway while the work at the subject property had already been completed. Car staff was able to work with the property owners at 518 West 20th Street, 602 West 20th Street to resolve their violations, and the roofs were ultimately replaced with new standing seam metal, which are actually in keeping with the Commission's review guidelines requiring in-kind replacement of materials when those materials can still be manufactured and obtained. Because the work was already completed at 510 West 20th Street, rather than reversing the work, the owners opted to apply for a certificate of appropriateness from the Commission for retroactive approval of the replacement of their standing seam roof with asphalt shingles. At the CARS meeting in May 2025, the Commission reviewed the retroactive submission and determined that the work partially met the guidelines. Specifically, the Commission approved the front porch roof material with standing seam metal, as it is a historic roofing material used for front porches in the context of the Spring Hill City Old and Historic District. The Commission denied the replacement of the main standing seam metal roof with asphalt shingles for the following reasons. Asphalt shingles are a modern material that do not adequately resemble standing seam metal and diminish the historic integrity and character of the building. The installation of asphalt shingles does not meet the intent of the guidelines adopted by the Commission for roof replacement and reconstruction, which state that substitute materials should match the original in style and form as closely as possible. And also page 96 of the guidelines, which state that asphalt shingles are
30
made
seconds.
of felt. What was that?
You have 30 seconds.
I'm not going to finish in 30 seconds. So,
Madam Chair, would you like to allow the speaker to continue? You can continue, sir.
thank you for allowing me additional time. I can skip ahead. So it is important to note that the Commission's responsibility is to enforce and uphold the guidelines they have adopted and apply them to each of our unique districts. The main objective of the guidelines is to protect the historic resources in these districts by ensuring the preservation and retention of historic materials that define each district, as well as ensuring that all new construction materials are appropriate replacements and/or substitutions. It's also important to note that Spring Hill was adopted in 2006, making it one of our newer districts. Because of this, there's already been alterations to the neighborhood's historic fabric prior to the district's designation, which would now be considered in violation of the commission's guidelines. So while asphalt shingles are present in the district on some of the historic buildings and new construction, these are likely pre-district alterations and cannot be used as precedent for the commission's decision. If that were the case, it would cause further erosion of the district's historic fabric. Section 30-940.8C of the city code states that city council may reverse or modify a car decision in whole or in part by a resolution when it is satisfied that the decision of the car is in error. This case is simple in that the applicant requests it to replace an original roof material with an inappropriate substitute. Sorry, excuse me. If the applicant had applied for the proper building permits prior to starting work, CAR would have been notified and requested a subsequent COA for the work, giving staff the opportunity to speak to them about appropriate materials. Unfortunately, that opportunity was not given to staff. Furthermore, the owner has gone through the CAR review and approval process prior when applying for exterior paint changes in March 2024, which could serve as evidence of the owner's knowledge and understanding of the historic protections on their property. We ask that the committee does not take action to reverse the CAR's decision, as the commission's partial approval is in keeping with the guidelines that the city council has authorized them to create, in every city council action that is made to overturn a CAR decision that is partial approval or denial based on a violation of their guidelines allows violations to exist in the neighborhood, compromising the commission's ability to regulate the guidelines and the protections that they are responsible to create and uphold. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support of this paper?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for that context, Alex. I appreciate it. I think the underlying story has been told well, so out of respect for y'all's time, I'll just skip ahead a little bit in my prepared remarks. When the retroactive application was submitted, the porch was approved, but the main roof was denied, and we respectfully ask the council to reconsider based on these 5 points. One, we acted in good faith. We relied on professional advice and had cooperated fully with city officials since the stop work order. In regards to the comment around the exterior paint colors, we went through the administrative process and had never been through a repair as extensive as building permits or appearing in front of CAR in person. Two, the stop work order was significantly delayed. So there's a 6-month gap allowed the roof to become an established feature in the neighborhood, and this work was neither concealed nor secretive. 3, there's precedent. Many homes in our district have asphalt shingles or mixed materials. Our choice was consistent with the neighborhood's character, and you can see those examples in the documents that I've provided. 4, the guidelines provide for flexibility. They state asphalt shingles are inappropriate for most historic structures, but not all, and allow for substitute materials that match the original as much as possible. Our roof slope and visibility also mean it doesn't detract from the historical character from the view of the street. And 5, the financial burden is significant. Replacing the roof again would cost upwards of $20,000, which is a hardship we believe is unreasonable based on our good faith efforts. And just in closing, we love our home. We love the Spring Hill community. Spring Hill was built as a working class neighborhood, and while the materials of the past were practical and affordable then, today's equivalents like full metal roofs or solid wooden siding are often out of reach. In a time of rising cost and housing pressures, I hope that the council will support residents making reasonable, common sense decisions to preserve their home. We're not contractors, we're not developers, we're not flippers. We're grateful homeowners, exhausted new parents, hopeful entrepreneurs, and engaged neighbors. We care deeply about our home and our community. But requiring us to tear off a structurally sound roof would not serve the goal of preservation. It would only be punitive. We respectfully ask for your compassion, understanding, and your approval. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Austin Farrell.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else present who wishes to speak in support of this paper? Seeing no one, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if I'm really following this conversation clearly, Ms. Lynch, as to what has transpired. If I'm hearing correctly, it seems as if um, uh, process of permitting to get work done on your home in the district wasn't exactly followed as far as getting the permit, filing for the permit as a part of the permit, and the work was maybe done and retroactively we asking for this to be approved. Okay, I know so help me out a little bit with this. And I guess the bigger question that I have is if what happens if the work is not approved by the commission? What's the next steps? Ms. Lynch, can you help me out a little bit?
Yeah. So, this happens, as you know, Councilmember Robertson, because you're I mean, you've done a lot of development, that often, permits and things will be filed, and that the permitting office doesn't always catch, every single detail, in a in a registered historic neighborhood. I think such was true in this instance, and so, the homeowner in this case followed once they became aware, followed the process. Where they had to deal with, I think, months, if not over a year, of kind of going through the rigmarole here with car and just trying to navigate all that. And so they, as Austin mentioned, the family followed through on all of that, did not do any work and was compliant with their stop work order. And so if we do not grant them, waiver or an exemption on the, or grant them the appeal rather, they would have to, as I understand it, tear down their existing roof and replace it. Yes, yes. And we do have, I mean, I'll call attention to some precedent. I mean, we've passed ordinances as recently as September to reverse car decisions. So, and that was I think voted on the 22nd, on our 22nd meeting in September. So there's a number of other ordinances that we can pull up where a car decision or a car appeal has been granted for reasons like this. I mean, this process exists as a fail-safe for when we need to kind of really look at these very kind of one-off cases. And I think that this falls into that one-off case scenario.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lynch. I appreciate that. Madam Chair, I think the councilperson for the district feels like the work that has been done doesn't have any adverse impact on the neighborhood. And so I would recommend that we support this paper.
Would second that.
The committee is now voting on a motion to forward Resolution 2025-R044 to council with the recommendation to approve. Mr. Breton,
Aye.
Vice Chair Robertson, Chair Jones.
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
For number 3.
The next paper before the committee is Resolution 2025-R045 to initiate an amendment to the city's zoning ordinance to establish a civil penalty for the demolition or moving of a building or structure located in a city old and historic district in violation of the city's zoning ordinance as authorized by the Code of Virginia. That paper is before the committee.
Do we have anyone? Okay, Ms. Jordan will speak to this paper.
Thank you so much, Chair Jones, and hello. So this paper is based on Richmond 300, which was adopted December 14th, 2020. And within that, there were 5 large themes and goals. Goal 3 being historic preservation, and specifically within that, reducing the demolition of historic buildings. So about 5 years ago, Richmond 300 stated this as one of their goals. Since then, we have had, some pressing issues that highlighted the need for this work to be addressed. And most particularly in Churchill, there were some historic storefronts that were torn down, and the only recourse the city had for this unpermitted demolition was a $200 fine. And that's just not enough to deter anyone who wants to tear down a historic structure and move on with their thing, even if it's been denied by the city. So after that happened, the city worked with our state delegation, specifically with Delegate McQuinn, to introduce enabling legislation at the General Assembly that would allow localities to increase the fine to an extent that would actually, be preventative. We want people to go through the process. We want safe demolition, and this is the outgrowth of that effort. So we've been enabled in 2024 legislation at the General Assembly as a locality to put forward this paper, and so that's what I've done. It is in support of the draft Cultural Historic Stewardship Plan, which is making its way through planning. It is something that's within that plan as well, but it takes root back in already approved and voted on Richmond 300. So we have Director Vonk here who can answer any specific questions you may have about the process. This resolution would just ask administration to create the ordinance necessary for us to be able to increase the amount of fines that we could levy. And with that, I will ask for your support, and thank you for letting me introduce this paper.
How much is the increase?
It can increase up to twice the assessed value of the structure. So, and that could, vary wildly, I would say. But again, up to, and I think the discretion is, what happened in the process? Why did it get torn down? What was ignored? What was the state of that structure? But I would feel more comfortable letting Director Vonk answer more of the technical questions you may have. Thank you.
Director Vonk.
Afternoon, Kevin J. Vaughn, Director, Planning and Development Review. Yes, so as to the fines, the code was amended to enable us, it would allow for up to twice the market value of the structure as a fine to be imposed. I think one of the things we would look at in creating the ordinance is, are there certain circumstances, right, that might warrant that full amount or perhaps a lesser amount? That would be part of the discussion in terms of like what that would be. But yes, for most homes, right, in this area or in city-owned historic districts, I mean, it could be up hundreds of thousands of dollars as a potential fine.
Questions, Madam Chair? I'm just going to ask a question of him. Thank you, Mr. Locke. Is this a situation that we've seen a lot of in the city where historic structures are being demolished without, I'm assuming that we are speaking to a demolition that did not get a permit for demolition. Is that correct?
That is correct. Even in city old and historic districts, there's really not a way to prevent a demolition. Ultimately, a demolition, if somebody desires to demolish a property, they're able to do it. However, there is a process to do so outlined by city code. And so this would be for those who skipped that process and just demolished the home.
So in order to do a demolition, is it required that the city that the person interested in doing this have to get a permit to do demolition, period?
in city old and historic districts. So
Only in
let
the
me back up.
historic.
To do a full demolition or to do demolition of a home, you need some type of permit in the city. And so generally that is some type of building permit. That is, if you're going to demolish a part of your home, you need a building permit to do that selective demolition, taking it all the way down to the foundation. If it's a full demolition, you will need a demolition permit, which is the structure and excavating everything out of the basement. That also is a special type of building permit. Those are required regardless. If you are in a city old and historic district, on top of the building permit, you need a certificate of appropriateness that allows for that demolition. And so this would apply to, I'll say, that third category for structures that are in city old and historic districts. So this is not any structure that's taken down. That would still be under the building code and a stop work order, which we increased from 200 to 400, but that is really the penalty. This would be for structures that are located in city old and historic districts and don't get that COA.
Okay, so if I apply for a demolition permit, and I'm not aware of whether or not I'm in an old and historic district, is there a means by which the city refuses to give the permit if you haven't gone through all of the process because you are in an old and historic district? Or is that up to the applicant to know that they are and to file the necessary?
Sure. So if you today were to apply for a demolition permit, when it goes into our system in the portal, it ties it right to the property that you're intending to demolish. And if it is in a city old and historic district, it raises the flag and it goes to our commission secretary to make sure that they are notified that we will not issue that permit until we also have a certificate of appropriateness attached to the building permit. So we flag it when it comes in.
One last question.
Mhm.
So the incident that Person Jordan referred to in Churchill was a demolition permit requested? Was it issued? And was it red flag? And the owner said, I'm taking it down.
So this case is a little bit interesting. If I believe this is the one up on East Marshall, the applicant actually did obtain a certificate of appropriateness for a project that involved demolition. However, in the project details, it said that they were going to preserve the existing storefronts. So they could take down the back of the building to build the new structure, but they were required to preserve the existing storefronts. And what happened is they moved forward with the demolition and demolished everything. They made a statement that was related to safety and that they couldn't be saved. They didn't elect to call us or the building commissioner and verify those facts. They just took the whole thing down. And so they violated, even though they had a certificate of appropriateness to do it, they went beyond the scope of what it said. And so that's why it was a violation and unpermitted demolition.
And has the city taken any recourse to this property owner because they did not follow the letter of the law as it relates to compliance with the permit?
What we had was, because they went beyond the scope of their demolition permit, the building permit, we issued them a stop work order, which at the time was a $200 fine. And they were required to go back through CAR and obtain a new certificate of appropriateness with a new design and new approval before we issued building permits again. However, once that structure is gone, you weren't able to preserve it anymore. But that is all we were able to levy in terms of the $200 fine for a stop work order. It was a zoning violation. I will just say, from what it's worth, zoning violations are quite hard to bring back before a court of law. But I think in this case, and where Councilman Jordan is looking at and why we supported the legislation is, looking at a deterrent that's just more than, I'll say, like a rounding error or bump in the cost of the overall project cost. So that there would be, a significant deterrent to actually moving forward with some type of, intentional piece.
Okay, one last question.
Sure.
One last question. If I'm hearing you correctly, because of that violation, if they were to come back they have to go back through the process, which they can't satisfy. I mean, they've torn it down, so it's gone. Does that prevent them from ever getting another building permit for that parcel of land?
It does not.
It does not?
No. So it allows them they can still get another permit, but they actually had to get another permit because they could not meet the conditions of the original permit. Original permit, right, said scope of work, I'm just going to tear down the back, I'm going to save the front. They went and violated that, so they had to get a new permit. They're not prevented from getting a new permit. They're able to apply and move forward. In the same case here, an entity that would demolish a structure, and let's say this were adopted and we were to levy a fine on them taking down that unpermitted structure, and it's twice the market value. Once they cleared the fine, they would be eligible to pursue a building permit for moving forward. So it is not tied to preventing anybody from moving forward.
Now, I suppose this resolution that we may pass here, am I correct that it does not specify the specifics of the legislation that we're requesting? It doesn't specify how high the penalties might be, nor any exemptions that we might write into it. Is it correct? We're just asking to spark the process of creating that amendment. Is that right?
That is correct.
And so would we have the opportunity in that legislation to do things like try to create backup plans for cases where someone in good faith has found themselves out of compliance by accident, and where the penalty is onerous, and the case could be made that they were good faith actors that have come out of compliance by accident? Will there be room for things like that?
Yes, and I will say it currently exists. There's some provisions that allow for, I'll say, emergency actions to be taken in an effort for preservation of life safety. And let's just say, for instance, through natural disaster, right? A wall sloughs off a building, and in order to prevent further damage, the property owner moves forward to take down the rest of the structure. I feel usually there's enough time for somebody to contact us and the building commissioner, really ultimately to make that determination. And we always say, give us a call because we're here to provide that guidance, but ultimately to rely on our building commissioner, or at least an authorized building official, to make that determination of yep, the structure is in imminent danger and needs to come down right now. I believe we already have some of those allowed for in our ordinance, but this would, I'll say, continue that.
Okay. Let's just say, I do believe that the urgency is there because once these historic buildings are demolished, there's no getting them back. So I can see the value of moving forward with this particular part of the Richmond 300 plan because of the urgency of saving buildings before they can't be saved.
One additional question. I slightly remember the number of housing structures or building structures in the city when we made reference to the cultural heritage plan. What was the percentage of structures that fell within that classification of old and historic or historic? Do you recall?
The number, I'm going to phone a friend. 4,000. Yeah. 4,000 structures.
What percentage is that of the total?
Doing the math, we have 76,000 parcels. So
2/3, more than 2/3?
no, 4 out of 76, that's like 6%.
60%,
6.
6%.
6.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah. So in the city, we have about 76,000 parcels. 4,000 of those parcels are in a city old and historic district subject to these subject to additional regulations.
Hmm. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clerk, we'll do a public hearing on the papers.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition to this paper? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of this paper? Please come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Cyan Crump. I'm the Executive Director of Historic Richmond. We are in support of this paper. It's been a long process. Originally, the cities in Virginia were not allowed to adopt this type of penalty while counties were. So the change at the state level was to allow the city to do what counties could do. We're in support of this. We think it helps reduce the perverse incentives to disobey laws in a very small percentage of city parcels, 6% of city old and historic districts. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but we appreciate your considering this and appreciate Councilwoman Jordan moving this paper forward.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else present who wishes to speak in support of this paper? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed, and I will bring it back to the committee.
I don't have any additional questions. I'd just like to make a comment. I know that, historic structures in the city of Richmond is a major concern at the Planning Commission stage right now. We are working very diligently to better assess the impact of and the quality of preservation of our historic structures in the city of Richmond. And so where there may be 4,000 units that are already within old and historic districts, the number of units that are of age that would be considered as historic is significantly different. So I think that really was the question that I was asking, not how many units are currently in old and historic districts. And I know that there's different standards and requirements from historic designation versus an old historic designation. So, but we are looking at this very critically to make an assessment as to making sure that we are doing the job that we need to do to preserve old, just historic structures by age in the city, which is huge compared to what's already within those districts, a huge difference in numbers. And as we look at our efforts, there's two bodies that are working together right now to try to make sure that we do the right thing. It's the Cultural Heritage Stewardship Plan and also our refresh of our zoning, which is extremely old. And as we look to the opportunity for increase in density in the city and trying to balance this out a little bit, we have not gotten, I serve on the Planning Commission, and we have a subcommittee that is working very diligently with that. We're working very closely with the administration and looking at making sure that those two both of them are huge and going to have huge land use impact in the city of Richmond, huge. And so the consequences is pretty steep, twice the assessment, twice the market value. And I would make the assumption in Church Hill, the market value of a structure could be anywhere $500,000 to $1 million plus. And I mean, that certainly should give anybody reason to pause and do what's right. I mean, if I have to pay a fine for $2 million, that certainly would really be quite enough of a challenge to make sure that, but it also speaks to any recommendations that we are looking at as far as expanding districts and those kinds of things and what type of challenges. So I know this is something that we want to take care of. I'm pausing because I know that I'm serving on both of those boards. I'm serving on the refresh for the zoning, and I'm also serving on the planning commission. And trying to balance this out right now is extremely complicated and challenging to do the absolute right thing. That's what's in the best interest of the city. So the question I guess I would ask is it possible to make sure that we've gotten the feedback from the refresh zoning as well as the cultural heritage through the planning commission so that we can weigh those values as a part of this process and making a decision on where we're going? And the other thing I would say is that if we're going, and I know you're asking for an ordinance, so it's not done yet, but to be arbitrarily double and not fully understanding what that would mean, how do we make that value decision? I think would be something that would have to be clarified in the ordinance. And if it's not adverse hardship at this time, I would ask that we just delay this until we have gotten through at least this part of the planning commission, which we hope to be doing within the next, a short period of time. I think the committee is due to make a decision on this within a reasonable short period of time, another couple of meetings perhaps, and then bring it back to the committee based on the recommendation that is also coming from the Planning Commission for the Cultural Heritage. So I would request that we continue it for that, maybe just for 30 days now to see where we are at the Planning Commission level, and we'll take it up again then.
I would be amenable to a 30-day continuation only because in the spirit of not trying to hold up papers that come through the committee and keep them moving. I asked that question. I do think that because we have the cultural heritage stewardship plan and we have other moving pieces, it does feel, and I could be totally off, but it does feel like we're getting ahead. I don't want to hold it as long as waiting for, if this is not done within 30 days, we can't, when we come back, say we need to continue it again. I do think that gives frame of reference and an opportunity to just make sure that we're not duplicating, or we won't be duplicating and getting ahead of, the recommendations from the plan. I think that is a fair option to say. So I do support 30 days at a minimum. And when it comes back, we need to be ready to move it because, again, in the spirit of not trying to hold up papers every time it comes to a committee, but in the also spirit, and we have to we can't pick and choose. We have to, if we want more information and we feel like it deserves more conversation, we need to be able to be amenable to that as well. So with that, if you want to make a motion.
That's my motion, that we continue it back to the committee, which is 30 days from today.
30 is all right. I'll second that.
Committee is voting on a motion to continue Resolution 2025 R045 to the November 18th, 2025 Land Use, Housing, and Transportation meeting. Mr. Breton?
Aye.
Vice Chair Robertson?
Aye.
Chair Jones?
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Thank you.
I think are we taking 4 and 5 in a block? Or just speaking to them? Okay, so we'll do paper number 4 and we have someone that'll speak to that paper.
The next paper before the committee is ordinance 2025-238 to execute a deed of temporary utility easement between Richmond and Henrico County for the purpose of granting non-exclusive easements through portions of Lewis Ginter Botanical Gardens located at 1800 Lakeside Avenue. That paper is before the committee.
Good afternoon, Chris Frelke, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Facilities. Lewis Skinter Park is actually an owned asset by the City of Richmond and the Department of Parks and Recreation. I think many of you may be aware, but they're making a lot of improvements over at Lewis Skinter. And as part of what we have to do whenever Dominion makes any improvement on the land or make any updates per the franchise agreement, we go through this process to grant them an easement so they can do the work that they need to do in the area. This is just part of a standard process that we do with Dominion.
Mr. Chair, we'll do a public hearing on the paper.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition to this paper? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of this paper? Seeing no one, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Committee is voting on a motion to forward ordinance 2025-238 to council with the recommendation to approve. Mr. Breton,
Aye.
Vice Chair Robertson, Chair Jones.
Aye.
That motion has been approved. The next paper before the committee is Resolution 2025-R046 to declare surplus and to authorize and request the CAO to seek offers, bids, or proposals by solicitation for the city-owned property located at 8790 Strath Road for the purpose of facilitating the solicitation of offers pursuant to and in accordance with City Code Sections 8.61 or 8.62. That paper is before the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have Chris Nazamis, who's online to speak to this paper.
Committee members, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I was just checking. This paper was actually in front of you 1 or 2 meetings ago. It was for a unsolicited offer that we received on the property. It did advance through your committee and ended up going to City Council. It was continued at the, I forget the exact meeting, I think September 28th meeting. It was continued in order for us in our real estate department to look for solicit bids on the property. This particular piece of property has not been deemed surplus, and the committee felt that we should look for the opportunity to obtain some bids for the parcel. So this paper is back in front of you for that purpose.
Okay, do we want, Mr. Kirk, we can do a public hearing on this paper.
Is there anyone in the chamber who wishes to speak in opposition to this paper? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of this paper? Seeing no one present wishing to speak, the public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the committee.
Madam Chair. Motion to continue.
Till, did it specify how long?
Next council meeting, next committee meeting.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Committee is voting on a motion to continue Resolution 2025-R046 to the November 18th, 2025 Land Use, Housing, and Transportation Standing Committee meeting. Mr. Breton,
Aye.
Vice Chair Robertson,
Aye.
Chair Jones.
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
All righty, thank you. We'll move into presentations. We'll have up the Fall Line Trail, Richmond Connects, Parks and Recreations, Trail Briefing, and then we'll do number 4, affordable housing. with Mr. Malone.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. Dirana Moore Clark here, Deputy Director, Department of Public Works. Today, I will be providing a status update on the Fall Line Trail. Next slide, please. Oh, I got the control. Gotcha. The Fall Line Trail is a regional shared use path connecting Ashland to Petersburg. It's a dedicated and separated bike and pedestrian facility. The City of Richmond's alignments for the Fall Line Trail are designed to be an economic enhancement for the nearly 13 miles of the trail. The trail, of the over 8.8 million in annual projected local tax benefit, of which 6.4 million annually would be in local sales, meals, and lodging tax revenues. With the overall completion of the 14 segments within the city of Richmond, the overall economic impact is upwards of over $326 million annually. I wanted to quickly also provide an update on public involvement. As you can see, since 2019, the Department of Public Works has been working with VDOT and really adamant through the Richmond Connects process to really get this trail through our planning documents and through the processes into development. And I did just want to quickly say one of the highlights of the public involvement effort was the creation of the Fall Line Trail Public Engagement Plan, which outlines for all 14 segments the intent for public engagement and is what we are following as we implement the segments. This is just a quick recap of the cost and the remaining balances for Richmond. This is the funding strategy, is what I'll be presenting on how we are approaching these 14 segments. Starting with 6B Bryan Park, 3.8 million has been secured. Construction is set to be completed by the summer of 2026. That project is under budget, and so we're very excited for that to be moving forward. Segment 5AR is Kanawha Plaza. We've currently secured, thanks from sports backers as well as the State Trails Office, the $4.6 million. Design is complete and awaiting construction. This is an awesome segment that's going to help connect from the Manchester Bridge over to the Kanawha Plaza. So looking at some of the intersection improvements with the TED and engineering to really make this a seamless connection for people coming in and out of this regional asset. 4E, I just mentioned Manchester Bridge, fully funded, and its preliminary design starting this fall. Lastly, 4D1R, 4C, Commerce Road, and I would advise you to look at your maps that have been provided for those specific segments. But again, that is currently in 30% design. Unfunded segments. So this is what the Office of Equitable Transit and Mobility is doing. We have identified a number of federal and state and regional funding sources to help us close the gap on the unfunded segments. And again, the funding strategies are utilizing smart scale process when necessary, the TA program, CVTA regional, the CMAC, the new CRP. We're also looking at the more costly sections for the better utilizing investments to leverage development grant, and as well as leveraging CVTA local and CIP funds if we can for these segments. I did want to highlight the integration and how well the planning efforts fit with our existing development initiatives. So I just wanted to quickly highlight the 6A, which is the Hermitage Road segment. It is currently unfunded, but as you know, it's in the heart of a very busy development that's occurring. And we are looking to get the right of way potentially moving forward rather quickly, we hope. And then we hope to find some dollars to actually get at least the Diamond District of it built. So that's a strategy. And then, and also I'll talk about a little bit about the community engagement that we're doing for the 6A. The 5B, as you can notice, that is the alignment where we have the most work. We are aligning that, though, with the city center to ensure that we do have a cohesive trail for our citizens and those visiting the city. What's next? So as I previously stated, we are in initial conversations with the adjacent Northside neighborhood associations. Direct engagement, we've been to some neighborhood meetings, but really the public engagement with charrette styles will begin in early 2026. We have also produced the Fall Line Trail Tree Preservation Guide in sticking with our commitment to environmental resources. Speaking on the south side, we have some partial funding for the south side, and so we really want to begin the planning efforts to really go out and see what does that alignment look like for the south side of the city. We've had some interest in working with parks and looking at spurs such as for Goods Creek and other places. So we're really exploring to see where we can best leverage our asset there as well. That concludes my presentation. Thank you. Any questions?
I just want to say I'm just really thrilled to see the progress here. I also love the kind of regional collaboration that I see here, getting regional funds for this. It's really, when I go to the regional TPO meetings, the fall line is a point of unity across the region. So I'm also glad to see all the ways you are finding funds that are not our city funds to get this funded. So I know some people are wondering why it's not funded yet. I know it's because you are out there busy finding funds to do this. So I appreciate all that as well. So I'm really glad to see this progress.
Thank you, sir.
Do you got a part two, or this is just your piece right here?
This is just my piece right here. Richmond Connect's Andy Bueno is going to do that.
Okay, thank you so much for this presentation. And I was like, phew, they got a lot of money to raise. So I won't take up your time because you probably can get busy doing that.
Thank you
so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Up next is the Richmond Connects. Okay, yep, thank you.
I'm Andy Bano, the Transportation Engineering Program Manager in Public Works. We were asked to give an update on the citywide bike plan from 2015. So this title is a bit of foreshadowing about where we are with that Richmond Connects, people riding bikes. So it wasn't that long ago, 2015, we had roughly 12 miles of bike routes throughout the city. And by 2028, right around the corner, we're looking at well over 100 miles of bike routes throughout the city. We've been taught, when I say we, transportation engineering, but also broadly the Department of Public Works, we talk about Richmond being set up for success in a couple of ways, two very important ways. One, that Ms. Clark was just talking about, the community support. People in Richmond love to brag about Richmond being a bike-friendly place. Anytime there's a magazine article around the country that lists Richmond in some top 50, top 25 type ranking, and bikes are involved, we love to talk about it. And the other thing is that, socially it's important, but then structurally, we're an old mid-Atlantic city, which means we've got great bones. Our street network is a fantastic starting point for a bike-friendly city. This neon flash of a light that you're looking at is a handful of examples of all the places that are in easy bike ride distance. If the connections are there, it's only about 2 miles on a bike to get to these types of places, Churchill to Manchester, Maymont to Carytown. The reason it's important when we're doing community meetings or the recent RVA builds that I know some folks in this room attended, we want people to remember Richmond's only so big. So any great neighborhood that you're starting from within the city, chances are this is an easy bike ride to another great neighborhood. This gets even more important when we're looking at e-bikes, not just regular acoustic bikes. I don't know if you all are familiar, but for 2 years in a row recently, the highest selling type of electric vehicle, outselling the other types 2 to 1, was electric bicycle. So e-bikes across the country are getting into people's homes all over the place, and Richmond's no different. You're seeing a lot more electric cargo bikes, but then just ordinary e-bikes, which means that all these little arrows on the map, all the different types of neighborhoods that are only a couple of miles away, that distance shrinks when people are getting e-bikes because it's just so much easier to ride around. We're not just looking at adults. We want to see kids flourish. We want to see childhood independence. So of course, we love seeing folks like the Richmond Cycling Corps share pictures and video clips when they're out exploring the new infrastructure as it's expanding. And then one way, anytime we talk about bike infrastructure, we refer back to where we were 10 years ago, 2015, with that bike master plan versus today. Roadway conversions are the key. This is something this is on a standalone slide for a purpose. This idea of maintenance, how do we keep streets to their highest and best use, safe for everyone, all ages and abilities? It's examples like this, Franklin Street, that you all have seen, and you see this type of treatment citywide, where as we're maintaining the streets, our calling for transportation engineering, we're constantly evaluating whether or not the space that was designated in a certain way 30, 40, 50 years ago is still appropriate today. And when we have the opportunities to provide bike infrastructure for all ages and abilities, that's what we're doing. So this is a fantastic way. I'll say on the cheap, it still costs money, but it's far less expensive than other methods, buying right of way and going outside of what we already control. This is part of our cheat code of how we're able to so quickly improve the street network. Let me just show you this quick list. You have a copy of this, so you're welcome to look at this later, but just a glimpse of all the streets around the city that are in some phase of design, either all the way complete, under construction, or coming soon for design. And this is where much of that's coming from. Again, Richmond Connects, the 2024 plan, this was about giving people options. So the Dutch, who are known worldwide for their bike infrastructure, like to say that a great bike plan starts as a car plan. And what they mean is, in the 21st century, people are already driving around. So where do people need to go? Start from those points, those types of trips, and then figure out, how can we give people options so that they might still choose to drive a car, but if they have the option to walk or use the bus or get on a bicycle, then those options are provided for them. This plan, of course, 2 things I wanted to mention on this. It incorporated and then expanded the 2015 Bicycle Master Plan. So the overall multimodal transportation study was Richmond Connects, a multimodal plan, so all modes. And then, of course, approved by Council in 2024. A few things that we just wanted to include as reminders that we found along the way during the public outreach. I wanted to call attention to this part about a multimodal city should offer affordable and practical options for getting around. Not everyone can afford a car. We don't want to force people into one particular mode. And then also, even if people can't afford a car, some people can't even afford a nice bike. So whether it's programs like volunteering with or coordinating with other nonprofits in the city who give away bikes for free, have discounts, or pursuing a couple of things like e-bike vouchers so that people can get what's typically a pricey bike for much cheaper. We want to be able to expand the bike share system. So we're constantly looking for ways to give people choices in getting around our fantastic city. You may have seen back in May, but then just a few weeks ago in early October, Bike to School Day. This is one time when you'll get to see kids and their parents discover all the low stress neighborhoods. And low stress is simply the streets where people who are driving are going really slowly, or the volumes are just so low that there's hardly any car traffic at all. So it's the kind of streets that we Gen Xers would say we were always playing out in these streets as kids. The red streets on here are the ones that are higher speeds where you wouldn't want to, you wouldn't feel comfortable riding bikes right now. So what we like to remind people is, right as we're working quickly to expand the bike network, there are lots of neighborhoods and streets within neighborhoods where we can already enjoy getting around on bike. Not every street is the same. Not every street is going to get the same type of treatment. Not every street needs a bike lane. Some need very secure bike lanes. So in the Transportation Engineering Division, this is where our focus is on those high stress streets. And this is directly related to our mission as a Vision Zero city. We want to eliminate all severe crashes. We don't want anybody to go to the hospital or the morgue because of getting in a crash. And so when we're looking at pursuing what you saw like Franklin Street or other types of bike infrastructure on or adjacent to the very busy streets, that helps save everybody who's both driving because it slows down traffic. It helps make bicycling safer. And at the same time, like while we're doing that, we want to keep encouraging people to use the bike lanes that are going in, but then also those low stress networks. As we're expanding, this is part of the positive story from 2015 to where we are today. There's never been a safer time to ride bikes in the city of Richmond. What you're looking at here, that I guess I was going to say orange, but they're both orangish. The more yellow color, the softer curve in this is a 3-year average of these severe crashes involving bikes. And we're seeing this nice downward trend as the bike infrastructure is expanding. So far this year, we've only had one severe crash in 2025. And hopefully there will be no more in the rest of this year. We love the trend that we're seeing. We're continuing to engage the public. I mentioned the Dutch Cycling Embassy. We had an all-day workshop back at the beginning of the year where we invited all the engineers, both staff and consultant teams who are working directly on designing city streets so that they could learn from the world's premier bike network engineers. And then afterwards had an open house. You might be amazed at how many people are interested in learning from the Dutch. We had well over 100 people come. And then the recent RVA Builds event where we talked about the roughly $800 million in transportation safety improvements that are coming, much of which either is directly bike lane expansion or related to bicycling safety. And then right around the corner, one of our local partners, Strong Towns RVA, is a nonprofit that's going to be sponsoring an event related to what we're talking about now, both what you just heard about pursuing funding for these types of projects, but then so funding bicycle infrastructure in Virginia, sponsored by Strong Towns RVA, hosted by VCU on October 29th. Anybody in the public is invited. And that's that.
Well, thank you very much for this report update. I know for certain my colleague to my right is going to have a lot of questions, so we'll let him give him the mic first.
Well, thank you. I mean, I obviously want to comment the importance of bikes are not just for the recreation of like groups of guys in spandex. I mean, this is part of our plan for our housing plan, our transportation plan, affordability plan, our mental health plan, our children's development plan. And so I really believe that having safe spaces for people to get around, children, adults, families, is very important. That's why I'm glad that you're here talking about this. And one thing I wanted to understand is we often talk about miles of bike lanes. How do we judge the success of our bike work? Is it the number of miles? Are there any other metrics or things that we can point to say that we've done a good job with bikes? Because we can point to some statistic or some number or some goal that we've reached.
So I would say it's in the same way that we talk about a systems approach for how we engineer a street network. It's not one thing; it's lots of things. In the same way with judging the bike network itself, mileage is very important because if we're doing nothing and no one got hurt, perhaps no one got hurt because no one went out on a bicycle. But safety numbers are very important. We show those, we have the Vision Zero dashboard for a reason. We track severe crashes, we track fatal crashes because we want everyone to live. No crashes those severe crashes are preventable. Therefore, we want to prevent them. The way that we expand the bike network, I showed you the example of Franklin Street. It does a few things at the same time. It not only says, checks the box that we want to expand the bike network so that people have a space separate from car traffic to ride bikes, but it links the two things that we're, kind of our North Star, Vision Zero and complete streets. Vision Zero, because as you convert a street, you rearrange that space so that there are fewer general purpose lanes for car traffic, but there's still space now designated for riding bikes. That slows people down when they're driving. So that makes the street safer for people driving, and it gives space for people riding bikes, which is our complete streets, being able to give people options for getting around. So all of the things are very important, whether it's mileage of bike lanes, it's safety numbers, it's how many kids are able to ride their bikes to school, it's parking. Is there convenient places to lock up your bike near the destinations? So
Yeah, I think I would recommend or ask as we move forward, we measuring just the things we've done is good. I think we want to actually get to a place where we are measuring the outcome that truly made a difference. The number of students that bike to school, the number of people that commute to their jobs, the number of neighborhood nodes that are connected by one of these comfortable routes. I think that those are things that, rather than just giving ourselves credit for putting down paint, we can actually look down and say, we have improved the quality of life for Richmonders in these following ways. And I really think I want to encourage us to start crafting what those metrics are and to point to them and focus our work on those to do that. Yeah, I mean, that's, and how about funding? Do we tend to get our funding from city funds, or do we tend to get them from Virginia DOT and we get we just paint a lane for free while we're doing it? How do we fund our bike network?
It's all the ways. It's all the legitimate sources of funding, but the vast majority of our funding is federal, state, and regional. And so if we're able to pursue, different types of grants have different strings attached or different purposes behind them. And so if a particular pot of money is designated for this needs to be for crash reduction or some specific type of safety feature, then we know that there's a way to propose in our grant application bike lanes that meet those needs. We're writing it towards that. So we want to do something that reduces crashes, for example. There are other types of grants that are specifically for bike lanes or non-motorized travel. And in those cases, we say we want bike lanes and we pitch it for that. So we have different strategies for pursuing different pots of money, but the vast majority is federal, state, and regional. And then when we're doing our local maintenance money, one reason this is such a great strategy with and having a public works where all the different groups within are headed in the same direction, Vision Zero and Complete Streets, is that we can work so closely with maintenance and paving and operations so that while a neighborhood is getting all of its streets repaved, every time those neighborhoods get repaved, there's been an evaluation. Hey, is there an opportunity to expand the already approved bike master plan? Is there something from Richmond Connects that can be incorporated as we're repaving? And so in those cases, it's part of maintenance, which goes to conversations that we've had with some council members about state of good repair and the need for maintenance money from Virginia Department of Transportation, and just how important that is, not just for smooth surfaces, but also as a key way to expand the bike network.
I know that we have a Richmond Connects bike plan that's relatively recent. So do you think it would be fair to characterize that plan as saying, hey, if we just had the money and time just to build out this plan, every cyclist in the city would be in utopia and be happy? How good is that plan? How complete is that plan? And is there anything blocking us from achieving that plan?
You're asking about the 2024 Richmond Connects?
Yeah.
Fantastic and strongly supported by the community and so strongly supported by council and approved by council. It's yeah, there's you're asking if the question or if everything was put in place, would we be loving life? We would be loving life, but we wouldn't be slowing down there. We would be still aggressive with all the other ways that we can both calm down vehicle traffic to keep everybody safe while making it so much more convenient to hop on a bike and get around. And then also related, this wasn't directly about people walking and rolling. It was specifically about riding bikes, but we're also going to be moving into our pedestrian master plan, which is, we're all, even if we drive, we get out of the car at some point and we're now a pedestrian. So that's going to be another important part of the multimodal transportation improvements.
That's enough for now. Thank you.
You got a question?
Thank you for the presentation. Just one comment. I'm looking at the Fall Line Trail report that we just got, and I'm looking at your map and would like to, not at this time, but get some additional information with the Fall Line Trail going down Commerce. And when I'm looking at your slide 13, I see an opportunity for us to enhance and build on that as well. So I'd like to have that discussion with you later on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this. I just wanted to note that my colleague mentioned in the beginning of his statement that the biking is not just about, people wanting to be cute on bikes. It's about our housing and transportation and all the things. I'm just hopeful that as a part of that, we are doing assessments on neighborhoods, before we decide to put in a bike lane, just because we feel when we're speaking about housing and transportation, we also need to know those areas, because if there's an area that folks are not biking and we put in bike lanes, that doesn't really help or solve for what it is that we're trying to do, because now you have a bike lane with nobody using it. And then, like, for example, right now we have bike lanes, but we need parking. And so I think as when we make those broad statements about this being for cyclists across, I always, and my colleague knows this, love and mean it, but it's like I always want to make sure we're being equitable and not just putting bike lanes in neighborhoods just because, so I would be interested in really, kind of continuing the conversation and looking at, similar to what my colleague asked about, how do we know where those bike lanes are coming online, how they will connect to certain trails. And then, what are the options, if a bike lane isn't a sufficient way, but is it a wider street where somebody can walk versus a bike?
Right. I would offer this, something that we've been doing recently with community meetings that right along these lines is helping people see, or just sometimes it's just asking questions. Where do you want to go? Where do you go? And so sometimes in surveys, you'll see this kind of thing, which is a great icebreaker kind of thing, so that it's not about material on the street for the sake of it. It's, if you live in this neighborhood, did you know you can now get to these neighborhoods without ever having to mix it up with car traffic? So those kinds of talking points are far more effective than saying, hey, we're building something new. Look out.
Yeah, I like that. We'll have to get you to a meeting. And if there are tools or anything that you all are using to educate the public around it, I would love to have access to that as well. I agree with the young people being out on bikes and being able to utilize them, not just to ride around, but to get to a job or to do whatever they need to do. If the mode of transportation is only a bicycle, I'd love to see ways that we can connect them, or specifically connect in. We have a lot of young people that are walking to the community center, so it'd be helpful to help them if there's a pathway or something that they can get to and ride to the community center. We'd love to see that, because we got a lot of folks on foot. And, so I think just as we're thinking about it and thinking about connecting, how do we connect from the neighborhoods that are more spread out and not actually on a bike path route? How do we figure that out? So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We had a third bike paper. Oh, y'all biking us out today.
Not bike necessarily, but we have a brief memo for me. But you did, Counselor, a great segue into our topic about connectivity and how we connect people to parks and green spaces. We have a brief memo for you. One thing, though, as we sort of transition over, I hope everyone over the next few days takes a moment to enjoy our trail network. It's one of the most beautiful times in the city of Richmond. We have a lot of different opportunities for you to go out there and enjoy our park system. And so I'm going to just do a sort of like a high level overview on what our trail system is and sort of what it has been. It dates back to the early 1970s of when we started that in the James River Park system. A lot of our residents created trails, and they weren't actual trails within the parks. And then under the leadership of Ralph White in the 80s, we started working with a lot of groups to build trail networks within the James River Park system. And then we were able to, over the years, actually hire a trail manager and do some other work. And so it all sort of started the inception in that concept, in the early 70s, and we've been able to slowly build it since. Just for understanding, there's different types of trail. So the single track trail is what you're going to see largely in the James River Park system. It's going to be more of a natural trail. It's not going to be nearly as accessible throughout the whole system because it is built in certain different areas of that. So when we think of Buttermilk, when we think of North Bank, those are going to be a lot of our single track trails. We have several of them at Pine Camp and some other areas of the city. One of our biggest users are the Greenway trails, and we've been adding those in. We saw like a great addition when we had the Capitol Trail come through the city. We've talked about the Fall Line Trail. That's going to be a great opportunity. There's requirements that come in with those trails, how wide they need to be, what kind of accessibilities they need to have within them. We've seen some of that over in Gillies Creek. And we're seeing this also on South Side with the James River Branch Trail. So these are the type of trails that are multimodal. Different people can use them from recreation, for transportation, and those pieces. And then another thing that is extremely popular are our VITA courses. These are just sort of like a single track trail that you can walk around in your neighborhood, but get some exercise and feel like you're in a safe environment to do things. You can flip to the next one. I think I'm actually moved on to 4 now. And so just to really, it gives you sort of the idea of what we do. Our staff is doing. We do daily maintenance repairs along these. We clean the trails, maintain the trailheads. We get a lot of, it's in the 311, so we get a lot of reports related to that. We're always inspecting that, and we try to figure out how we continue to do connector trails in there. Next slide. This just gives you an overview of the whole sort of in a very, we have 52 miles of the single track. So that talks about Buttermilk, that talks about North Bank, that also talks about Pine Camp and some of those. We have 20 miles either under construction or existing of the Greenway trails, which is the larger in connectivity with the 2 regional Fall Line and Capitol Trail. And we have 12 VITA courses. We have about 300,000 people that use the James River Park system, and so that means we probably have just under 1 million people using all of our different trails. We also know that this is a big economic impact, just like the bikes we had heard were a great regional, will bring people to the city. We know North Bank Trail has been rated one of the best trails in the country to use. Just like most of our park system, people come to use the James River Park system. Last slide. So one thing that we are working on, and I think it will answer some of our counselors' questions, but on page 6, we have been working over the last 18 months to do Richmond Inspire. As part of the Richmond Inspire plan, connectivity is a key goal of what we need to see happen. And this gives you just a sort of taste of what's going to come out. We will be coming back to you guys towards the end of the year with the 90% draft of Richmond Inspire that will show more of the deep dive of what we're doing. And to the counselor's question, like, how do we know we have success? We know success when we have it so that all of our residents are within a 10-minute walk or bike ride to a park, that we have connectivity, as Counselor Jones was talking about, so that kids have safe routes to parks, not just to schools. These are things that we need to be working on. We'll have some information that'll be coming out through Richmond Inspires that will lead us in that sort of path. But this is going to be one of the best tools that we've had in a long time from what we've been able to do with the mapping, with the achievement. And you say, like, how do we know it's success? It's how many people are coming to the parks. We were able to, with the Richmond Inspire, be able to get software, placer data. We've talked about this, counselor. But now I can see when Southside Community Center opens from March to August, we had 50,000 adults coming into the building. It doesn't even count the youth. Counselor Jones sees it every day when she's in the community center and how many people are coming in there at volumes that we've never seen at a public facility. We'll be able to get that same kind of data to see the success that we're going to have in our system by having these type of pieces and usage. It's a demand that we continue to see. Our community wants to figure out different ways to have this multimodal, how they get to places safely. And we're excited that as this plan rolls out, and it will also give us, as you can see, priority zones that we need to look at. There's also a lot more of a deeper dive in the plan that we'll be able to share later towards the end of the year. But I think there's a lot of hope for what we're working on in this and how we identified it. And we see its a value and importance in our community.
Is that it?
That's it.
Oh, okay. Any questions?
All right, I would ask, how do we foresee the funding and the timeline to achieve this map of goals? Is it long-term, short-term? Like, how much extra funding do you need?
Well, I think, I like to use the example of the James River Master Plan. And so when we look at the James River Master Plan, we have been able to fund $50 to $60 million worth of that plan. And a lot of it has been through either private grant dollars, like Dock Street Park is a great example. That was identified as something we needed to see happen in the James River Master Plan. The city put $75,000 for a $5 million parcel of land to purchase. $450,000 for the $5 million to purchase there. But we've been able to figure out how we use city dollars to match grant dollars, do that. Having these type of plans, showing the citizens' need, showing that we have partners engaged, helps us sort of bring everyone to the table to do it. So it's not just the city that needs to fund this plan, because you're going to see that there's deferred maintenance. You're going to see that there's a need and a desire of what we want to see in a park system. This will give us a tool to work with not only just getting grants, nonprofit partners, others to sort of figure out where we need to identify what's the high priority that we need to do, and then how do we target those dollars where we need to target them first.
No, we good. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ferrocri. We'll be looking forward to seeing this, the Inspire. When is the Inspire? When will that be done? The Richmond's Inspire?
I think we will be bringing it for you all to view at organizational development December 10th.
Okay.
And that's the 90%. And then we're going to be asking you all for the next 60 days after that, where do you want us to go to make sure everyone's seen it, hear it, and that we got it right.
Okay. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Last but certainly not least, Mr. Malone, to tell us all about, he said he's been here all afternoon. Ready to tell us about the surplus and affordable housing and amongst other things. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Eric Malone, Director of Housing Community Development for the City of Richmond. And no, I'm not going to talk about bike trails or bikes. What I really want to talk about is how excited we are as a department to be able to come forward and present you with our presentation for the strategic disposition of surplus properties for the building and development of mixed income affordable housing. And this is really exciting because this is another tool in our toolbox. The mayor challenged us and charged us with use of how do we strategically use our surplus properties for the development of affordable housing. And we've been working on that. And so I think that this is where we are. The first two are 212 North 18th Street, which is in the 7th District, Council District, and then the 911, 913 Hall Street in Manchester, which is in Councilwoman Robertson's district. We're really excited. The 212, you can, yes, that's 212 North 18th Street. That's the rendering. Right now, it is a vacant lot that has been surplus since, I think, 2020. Right now, there are, I think, some trucks sitting on it, vacant. It is a parcel that is paved surface lot with an assessed value of $1 million, zoned correctly for us to do it. In fact, allows us, by developing this site, actually it'll reduce the carry on the cost, meaning that there's maintenance costs right now associated with taking care of that. So not only would we be able to create affordable housing, add this lot back to the tax rolls, we'd also eliminate some ongoing maintenance costs for a non-performing city asset at this time. That is the area down off of Gray Street. It's 1 block from East Broad, and it's really across the street from the Bakery Loft development, which is a multifamily development, fairly new, which will be right across the street from it. And then so you can see the location. It's in a very prime location. Now I talked about the assessed value is 2.1. All of we'll be looking at this from an appraised value. So all of these properties that we do, we'll be looking at it from an appraisal. We'll have appraisals for all of them. So that's and for these two as we start out of the gate. So the next project is the next parcel is 911 and 913 Hull Street, which is directly across the street, basically from the court. This is a parcel it's a quarter of an acre. Again, a paved surface lot, assessed value of $485,000. And so again, this proposal will be subject to appraisal. So you can go to the next. And you can see the location right now. It's a lot, but hopefully we will be able to activate that lot in a public-private partnership to develop housing. So, and let me say this is going to be a RFP for developers, be it nonprofit, for-profits, previous life. A lot of times you'll see a nonprofit partner with a for-profit to go after these particular, to submit a bid. We are going out to everywhere to get the very best to come and bid on these particular parcels. We're going through press releases, we're going through the Richmond Realtors, we're going to PHA, social media. We want the best. And we're set to release this RFP on November the 5th. And we will then have site visits for both sites. One for 212 will be on the 14th, and then for 911 and 913 Hall Street, the site visit will be November 17th. We will then have a question and answer period for the prospective people, and that will be on December 4th of 2025. And then the proposals, we're opening for 75 days. The reason we're doing 75 days is because we factored in the holidays. And what we want are really good proposals. So we don't want you to rush. We want to get really competitive proposals. So we've expanded it to 75 days. The proposal will be due to us February 24th. And then there will be a review by an expert panel that will require a panel of experts who will look at these and evaluate them starting in February and get to March. And then the interviews for best and finals in April. And then the final recommendation will come forward, and then it will come through the administration to you all. I talked about this. I talked about the composition of the panel, but here are some of the evaluation criteria. We're expecting a minimum of 20% of affordable units. We'll also be looking at the composition of the project team, the development team. And I mean, that's going to be very important. We'll also be looking at design, conceptual design, and project financing and scheduling, how, finance is being structured, financial capability, all of those things. And then the final evaluation criteria will be community benefits, MBE and WBE participation. I think that's very important. And that's how the scores will be weighted in that way. And we're really excited. We're going to see what we get. And we have some other surplus properties that we have in the queue that we would like to issue competitive RFPs for.
Thank you, Mr. Malone. So in other words, you saying I just need to find a parking lot and then call you.
That the city owns.
That the city
That
owns.
the city
They
owns.
just call you. Um, I can do that and I will get back to you. But I'll say, I'm excited to see this coming along. I do remember when we had our, like all hands on land use meeting with you all. And that was one of the things that Ms. Robinson had brought to the forefront about using the surplus land to really go back into and do affordable housing. So this is great to see this. And I'm excited to, see how it unfolds so that we can continue to do more. And the one thing I did have was you said there was going to be a community benefits agreement, but will you factor in as a part of the evaluation criteria a community, like a meeting? Will there be a community? Will there be any engagement from the community as a part of the evaluation, or will that come as you develop the benefits?
That will come later.
Okay.
That will
Yeah,
come later,
got it.
because I think that's very, very important.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Malone, you are bringing all these development expertise to the city and helping us move this agenda as it relates to affordable housing. So we appreciate the work that you've been doing. And I want to commend you. We get a lot of positive feedback from the development community as it relates to the work that is being done out of the department and the relationship that they are having with the department in putting together the kinds of development that we are doing as far as affordable housing is concerned. The comment that I like to make, not necessarily looking for an answer. 20% seems like, I know you said that's the minimum. Looking at the affordability, because we get a lot of feedback all the time about what is affordable in the city. If we're doing 80%, if we're doing anything above 60%, it almost feels like for people that are really looking for affordable housing, that is almost market rate housing. Not necessarily. And I respect the fact that we have a short supply of housing. And so a lot of the reasons why the housing that is going at a certain price point is actually being purchased and occupied by individuals that could probably do better at it, but because of the demand. So I guess the other thing that I'd just like to make a comment about is that when we look at, we've gotten a report, I think, previously on surplus land in the city that the city owns. A lot of that is not, have been said, not billable lots, but much of it is. As to whether or not there's some action that we need to take at the present time to try to do a little bit more forward planning to continue this initiative. And, you know, we got to get out of the gate, figure out, is this working and how well it works. But if there's other land that we own in the city that could potentially be earmarked at the current time for affordable housing, because it's one of the, as you very well know, one of the greatest challenges with affordable housing is the cost of land. And our opportunity in order to leverage the whole development cost with it being the city's inventory, and us being able to make sure that we are maximizing the opportunity for the affordable housing. I mean, you and I know very well, I don't know what's Churchill. I mean, every planning commission meeting I go to, there's 5 or 10, 15, it seems like, I know it's not that many, it's probably 5 every meeting though, SUPs. And they're not for affordable housing, but they are for a lot of development that are taking place. And so we are landlocked. And so the opportunity to try to space bank, in a sense, existing inventory reserved for the purpose of affordable housing is an opportunity window that I want to be as aggressive as we can to reserve, and have it designated for that purpose of affordable housing.
I think one of the beauties of this is that when the evaluation committee will look at it, they'll look at financial structure, but they also, there are options that, you look at, and you will get you could score higher with the various degrees of affordability. In other words, the more affordability, the more, the higher you score. The other thing is when you start doing these, and I've been on both sides where I have to issue them and also had to respond to them. There are instances where, as a public entity, we as the city can create the value. So therefore, we can look at things like the deeper affordability. Maybe we would lower the price of the parcel, to get more affordability. So obviously, one of the things that we're looking at, or that the committee will look at, I can't sit on that, of course, is the financial structure composition. Maybe someone will propose a ground lease that would make more sense than a disposition, but that all will come when we respond. You see what we get. We want to be prescriptive, but we don't want to be so prescriptive that we lose the creativity from the and of course also it's what you can finance. So
Yeah, I think I wanted to share Councilman Robertson's, I guess, focus on the fact that we have this land is a big opportunity. We don't want to squander it, right? And so you want to be ambitious about your affordability levels, right? 20% homes at 80% AMI would hardly be something, to be, wouldn't move the needle as much as I would hope we could. The fact that, theoretically we can give this land for $0 to somebody if we choose to, and that is such a big deal in terms of our options for truly having rates that are below the market. I want to make sure that we're doing this. It sounds like we're not being too prescriptive about exactly what the goals are here, and so we might get very ambitious plans. And so at that point, we'll have to decide what we want to do. So that's good to do. I want to know maybe three things to wonder. Would it be possible that somebody might offer a plan that actually includes for sale units that are, some type of affordable for sale option? Is that within the realm of the possible here?
it would be, it's possible. I mean, it's very much possible, Councilwoman.
Yeah, like condos and stuff that have like certain deed restrictions and things on income. Similarly, it sounds like it's possible that we could even retain ownership of the land and lease it out, if that was it ended up being the financial
structure and it made sense.
Okay. And we may even be able to push the affordability even deeper than merely 20%. So I think, I would say, I would rather forego the taxable level of this thing, and I would really want to focus on getting creative and aggressive about how affordable we can make this, because the fact that we can truly give this thing away, price it, right, is a great opportunity. I don't want to squander that.
So I would suggest that there are other parcels in the city are more conducive, I'm just saying, to create affordability at that deeper level. We do have other parcels. I would also suggest that if part of this is whatever that financial situation, structure comes out recommendation, we would also like to take some of those funds and be able to put it in a housing fund to be able to continue producing more affordability in other properties. So I just say there are going to be parcels that we can make probably all affordable. It just depends on the nature of the parcel and the nature of the responses that we get.
Yeah, but is there anything in the, or will there be anything in the RFP that lends itself to that level of affordability? Because I guess the way I'm looking at it, when you're looking at the areas that those, the locations, right? There isn't a lot of affordability in those areas because the properties and values of those areas have gone up, specifically Manchester and Churchill. So I think if I'm hearing correctly, all of what my colleagues are saying is that it would make more sense for people who couldn't necessarily live in those areas. It would make sense for them to be able to afford to live in those apartments that are coming up based off of this new way that we're trying to do it. So, I think, again, without trying to say, hey, make them all affordable, how do we, ensure at some point, because 20% is not that great, but that we know right now your average working citizen or whomever could not move to Churchill or buy a home.
So we're saying a minimum of 20%, but we are not talking about what that range is. That range could be, as long as it's, affordable, that range can go from that 0 to, right.
Okay, makes sense.
Just make sure.
Well, we trust you. We know you got it, and we coming looking for you if you don't. No, I'm just kidding, but we appreciate you and everything you are doing to really expand the affordable housing project, because that has been a focus of, really just trying to do some different things. So I mean, happy to see this new tool and see it get put to work in a way that, again,
Well,
makes
that's
us
a credit to our
compatible.
team. My
Yeah.
team is, they're working hard at identifying new sources. How do we use tools creatively? So it's really.
They
a
got great
testament.
leaders, so thank you.
No, I'm good.
Thank
you.
All right, staff report, is there anything you want to add to this, or?
I think you've covered everything that you have, and for next month, we have some things again on affordability and zoning, refresh some of the matters you touched on to look forward to. And we'll get with you to refine that.
Thank you. We're right at time for dinner. But Mr. Clerk, if there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned.